When we look at people's behavior uh, these days, there's a couple things I notice. Um, I titled this video today, "The Rise of Demonic Activity," because in a lot of ways that is that's basically what we've been seeing. Um, but when we look at people's behavior these days, um, there's two particular things that I notice of why people are, people these days are much more unhinged than they have ever been before. I think um, part of this is one part of this is the social engineering that has been going on, that they've been doing, since however long they've been doing it. I'd say probably since the beginning of time. Um, the second part of it is a spiritual problem, absolutely a spiritual problem. Um, you know, uh, People now are much more unhinged, as I said, than they've ever been before. Um, there has been a huge uptick, I've noticed, over the last, at least 4 or 5 years of big time demonic activity, massive increase in demonic activity. Um, when I do follow the news, and every day it's a shooting, every day it's some act of violence, or some really tragic, horrible thing that other humans do to other humans. Um, whether it's a woman drowning her kids into a bathtub, or a group of guys ganging up on one guy to attack him. Um, you know, this is every day that this is happening. It's on the local news in my area, as well as it's on mainstream news. Um, whether or not these things, especially any news that comes from the mainstream news, has to be questioned, because it's always used to manipulate people. Whatever the situation behind that is, um, the fact is that when I go out in public, I can feel a sense of this dark cloud. I guess you can call it some kind of dark energy. I can feel it off of people. And when I go into public, I notice it. People are in they're in a state of malaise. Um, like this dark cloud is just hovering over everything. And I notice it off of the people. People are not, uh, they're not acting right. Something's very wrong. And part of that's social engineering, but social engineering, I think, is only a stepping stone to understanding what's really going on here, which I think leads to the main factor, which is more of a spiritual thing, whether it's the mind, the soul, the body, or I mean the soul or the mind or the consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Um, there's a big sickness, and the health is not doing too well on that spiritual side of things for most people. Um, you know, at this point, I don't make these videos to wake people up anymore. Most of you guys here on my YouTube channel already know most of this stuff. I do this as a way of for me to maintain my sanity as I see these things unfold. Because you can't solve people's spiritual problems by making YouTube videos. It's just not going to happen. Don't expect that to happen. People are more unhinged nowadays, and like I said, there's been a massive uptick in demonic activity. People are more quick to resort towards acts of violence um, to solve their problems. They're more quick to anger. Um, they're more quick to attack and basically just use violence to solve their problems. Um, you see this with people that drive on the road, especially. They're more dangerous. They drive more recklessly. people's behavior is just not right. Something very wrong going on spiritually with people. Like I said, it's like a dark cloud is hovering over everything. That I notice when I'm around people, which is why I really don't like being around people, because I kind of pick up on that stuff um, quite intensively. Whatever that reason is, I just do, and I notice it. I notice a big change, and I notice the change particularly in certain areas too. Um, certain little pockets of areas. I notice more or feel more uh, demonic energy, I guess you can say, for lack of a better word, because this is difficult for me to try to explain. Especially in the cities, I notice it in the cities that there's this feeling. I don't like going into major cities. Because I notice this. It's almost like you have these pockets or nests of demonic activity, almost like a dimensional bleed through of reality in these areas, and it's particular areas, but it is bleeding into other areas. I kind of notice too. Um, Another thing is that you know people are also becoming more debaucherous, and their immorality is increasing uh, by the day. You know, um, I saw a TED talk, or I didn't see it, but I had somebody tell me about this. I didn't see it because I didn't want to see it. I didn't feel the need to. I knew what I needed to know straight from the title of the video, and that was all I needed to know. And it was called the TED Talks of the TED Talks did, saying that pedophilia is a sexual orientation. Okay, that's actually a TED Talk that was done. Okay, so how much further do you need? Here's the thing: people. I think people have an inherent sense that they know that we're in trouble spiritually and with the world's condition physically. They know that we are in big trouble. I think people know that. They might not admit that because people like to remain optimistic. They want to feel like they have a way out. They want to feel like they can unlock the door and just leave anytime they want, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. But I think everybody knows, and I think it's being proven to them, and that hope is being beaten out of them. And hopefully for the better, because they realize that they're going to get a wake-up call and really, snap to their senses and see what we're really dealing with here, instead of living in a fantasy land hoping that things will change and think that things are going to change, when in reality it doesn't work that way. So hopefully, maybe, that could do it, but I have no hope in that, because I know that once you reach the point in a society that people are willing to entertain the idea that pedophilia is a sexual orientation, and the reason I say entertain is because the whole entire crowd was full of people that watched and sat through that lecture. There should have been nobody there. The idea should have never been entertained whatsoever. But the whole crowd was full of people in there sitting down and watching that lecture. So the fact that people are even willing to sit there is, who knows, they could be paid actors to sit there, whatever. The fact is they made a video about it and they're pushing it to the public. If that's not demonic enough for you, then you ain't seen nothing yet. But like I said, the fact that people are willing to sit there, how much more of a milestone do you need to see of how far we're down the shitter, other than that? And that is a direct connection to demonic activity. You better believe it. And this stuff is happening more and more and more. Once a society gets to that point, you forget about it. It's over. And we're getting to that point. That's why I don't, like I said, I don't do this stuff to wake people up anymore. we've already gone so far down the road that, there's no point. I do this for myself, for my sanity, so that I can talk about these things, so that I don't bundle it in and then end up resorting to violence because I can't express myself properly. You see, that's another thing, that the social engineering aspect of this problem of people's behavior that we're facing is that they have cut off people's ability to communicate properly. People resort to violence, or they'll, do whatever, because they don't have the ability to communicate the words that they're feeling. They don't know how to use the proper words. So they get pent up in frustration and anger because they don't know how to communicate properly. That wasn't by any coincidence. That was done on purpose. We see this move towards texting and not talking on the phone. Little things like that add up in the long run as to why people can't communicate properly. It really does. It's common sense, really. Using abbreviations on the internet, this is all designed to take people's communication ability away from them, so that they cannot express themselves in the proper manner, which leads to anger and frustration and resorting to violence. That's the social engineering part of it, but I'm really getting to the demonic part of it. And this has been happening, and so people don't really have the ability to say what they've been feeling. They don't know how to describe what has been going on, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do through my own videos, is to explain to myself and try to find the right words to explain the things that I see. But it's hard to, because we haven't been given the lexicon to be able to explain this, or it hasn't been, and also it has not been explained to us how it exactly works. So it's been a guessing game from the beginning for anyone who's managed to get a keen eye into this thing. So, but going back to my point here is that there's a big increase in demonic activity I've noticed through people's behavior. The thing is, as we move towards this, and it's going to get worse. I hate to say it, but it is. The thing is, the people that are quick to anger and that will resort to violence will not last long in this, as we keep moving forward towards this thing, whatever this dark storm that's approaching us, spiritually, and in the world in general, whether that manifests as war or a totalitarian age. It's this big storm, and it's got all the goodies packed into it, and it's coming, and it's moving slowly towards us. Actually, it's moving quite quickly. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. My opinion is the people that are quick to anger, that are caught up into that, whatever this thing is spiritually wrong, that people are in this kind of demonic energy that is arising on the earth every day. Those that are caught up into that system, in the general public sense, will not last very long, because they will do things that end up hurting themselves, or will, more importantly, will cause them to self-destruct, which I think is pretty much what I think is going on, at least to one level of the spiritual problem, is almost in a way a self-destruct programming that is occurring, as to why people are so quick to anger, and go down this road. It's almost a way of self-destruct programming, so that they annihilate themselves because of the inability to handle the amount of stress of what they're seeing and what their soul is undergoing. These individuals seem to be, the spiritual problem in a way is almost like it's annihilation of the soul. It's a sodomization of the soul. It's a self-destruct programming of the soul, which first begins to manifest itself into violence and demonic activity. And towards the end of the series of events that leads somebody towards the point where they end up, having a society go down that point as a collective into pedophilia, that will end up being the thing that finally pushes a person over the edge into the territory of complete and total death of the soul, because there will be no firewall to prevent people from having an ability to say yes or no to something for their own protection, and in that case they will self-destruct. Whether it will be from alcohol or drug abuse or violence, they will end up self-destructing due to their actions. That the soul, because of the fact that the soul has no firewall, and it does not have a spiritual blockade to prevent those things from letting itself in. Think of it like a computer, and you have a firewall, right, to prevent viruses coming in. Well, this demonic energy that we see is viruses trying to get in, but the viruses have been picking away at the firewall because the person has not kept the firewall up to date. They've allowed it to go. They've allowed their souls to go through immorality and through debauchery and all this, and lack of self-control. And that firewall has gotten weakened. And then the viruses begin to infect the soul, and they start to work their way in. And then eventually the virus destroys its host, or parasites off of the host, which is the demonic aspect of it, possession, until the host can no longer take it. And then the host dies. You can look at that and equate that to society at this point in general. So, this is, this is the best way I can, from my observation of what I've been feeling lately and what I've been seeing, how this is probably the best way I can kind of explain this. We have a big spiritual problem with the soul. The soul is the firewall to the soul is being chipped away, and it's for most people it's almost broken through. And then once you start introducing philosophies and ideas of things like pedophilia off of that TED Talks, then what's going to happen is you're going to introduce murder, legalize murder, or public executions like they do in China. And then you're going to have, if society even is allowed to, if it can even hold itself together after that point, we're talking about the collapse of a civilization here. If society can even hold on, if they legalize pedophilia, which they're going to, if it might not be in a legal book way, but it will be openly normalized, because they will push this because of the demonic activity that is increasing. There are forces in this world of the demonic that are so evil that they are working to make this happen, because they need a host to destroy. And they know that's the way to do it. They know that, they know us, these demonic things. They know the living. They are the dead, we are the living. And they know how to parasite off of the living because they depend on it. They've been doing it forever. And they know exactly how you get that done, so that it's a feast. It's a buffet of souls to parasite off of. It's almost like it's an astral, parasitic, consciousness, soul thing, for lack of a better term. If society can even hold on after that point, if there's even any kind of, order, which, I don't expect there to be. I think that at that point you'll just have to have military on the street. People will just be so insane that, uh, or they won't care. They'll just let it do its thing. They'll let them in and let these demonic things parasite and host off of everybody and possess people. I mean, that's basically possession. It's a form of parasitism. Um, and they'll just let it happen. I mean, I don't know how it's going to play itself out, but I do know that if society is even together uh, and able to hold itself on, whether artificially induced or not, if that system continues, then it will resort towards, open murder, um, debauchery, pedophilia, bestiality. Um, they already have that with women's sex toys too, where they have, sex toys in the shapes of animal genitalia. I mean, that's already, I mean, God, for fuck's sake, you know, that's already here. It's just desensitizing the public to it at this point until they openly do it. I mean, this stuff I don't know if it will be openly public, but it's happening. It might not be completely open to the public as like a fucking baseball game where everybody goes and watches it. Maybe they will. Maybe they do. I'm pretty sure they will. I think in Rome they had something like that where they everybody watched people just do horrific, terrible things as an entertainment. I mean, they do that in China where they make television shows and people go to watch public executions. So that's already going on. So if you don't think that can happen here, you're wrong. So the fact that they're doing that in China and they're watching people openly get executed, then who's to say it can go further than that? You look at the porn business that they do all of this stuff too, this cuckolding and all this crap, and it's all designed to lead the soul to destruction. Period. So, at this point, I'm going to wrap this video up because I'm running out of words here. Um, at this point, you have to be very aware of your surroundings. You have to keep your mind and your sanity as much as possible, because everything right now is trying to get us, and I'm not trying to save the general public. I'm really not, because it's pointless. For those that already know this stuff, I'm speaking to you. We have to find a way to maintain our sanity in a healthy manner, because everything that is going on right now is designed to make us break the spiritual firewall to let the shit in. And we have to find out healthy ways to cope with this stuff that we're going to have to be dealing with. For me, right now, that's been kind of playing video games with some friends, um, making a video here when I feel inclined to, going to the gym, and keeping myself awake and aware of everything I watch and every person I talk to, and monitor what's going on with them personally, because you don't know if people are, so they don't have it together as much as you think they do. They could be in jeopardy of having their spiritual firewall destroyed. And you have to watch that, because when they do that, then it's like a contagion. It starts to rub off on you, because then there's no person there to keep you in check. There's no friend there to say, hey, you're taking it a little too far now. It's time to stop. You need to cut the shit, because if you keep doing that, you're gonna self-destruct and possibly damage your soul to the point where you can't fix it. And those are things that you have to be aware of, and make sure that your surroundings are not infected with people that are not very healthy spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically. Well, physically, I mean, is a different thing, but I'm talking about spiritually mainly. You know what I mean. So, especially in this day and age, unfortunately, you can't trust very many. You really can't trust anyone because you don't know where their minds are at. You don't know if their firewall has been broken through. You know, and it's easy to be able to tell this just, based upon talking to people, and how they act to others. Um, you know, good judge of character. Unfortunately, most people don't have that. And it's sneaky too, because people can be sneaky and they can say one thing and do another. So all of us falter, and all of us, maybe have had friends that we thought we trusted, but ended up stabbing us in the back, or something along those lines. Because, when the soul is under jeopardy, and there's something else inside that person's mind, it's not the person anymore. They're nothing but their consciousness has been rewired to think differently, and that involves a lot of manipulation and a lot of uh, subtle nuances that get them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, because their minds are being, the energy that they radiate, the energy that they're surrounding themselves with, whether it's the people or their behavior patterns or how they act, is no longer of them. They have been uh, they have lost their way. And so, on a final note here, my point is that we have to be very careful as we move forward. Like I said, I'm talking to you guys. I'm not talking to the public anymore. I'm not talking to the public anymore. It's too late for them. Whatever the public is, I just call the public everybody that doesn't know any of this stuff. I refer to it as them, because there's a divide. There is a divide. That we don't have this, unity where everybody holds hands and everybody gets along and we all should get along. No, that's fucking done with. Okay, that is over with. And if you keep seeing that, you're naive, and you're probably, you know, you probably don't understand what's going on. Um, there's no more room for naivete here. This is very, very, very serious. Very serious. Because once the earth, or whatever this place is, reaches a level of energy, once I think it's in the Bible that talked about this, when the cup of iniquity fulls, that's when the tipping point happens, when things start to go downhill really quick. And we're reaching that point, and you got to be ready as much as you can to prepare yourself for what you're going to see. It's like a soldier going into war. You're going to see some really, really bad shit. And we're all about to see it. And you need to be ready to handle it. And you handle that by keeping yourself in check, and surrounding yourself with good people, which there's not many left, and you can't trust anybody. You don't ever put your faith in people now. Especially now, don't be putting a whole lot of faith in very many people. I hate to tell you it, but it's true. Because most people, they're not, they're really not. That really is a fading thing, due to all the reasons I just mentioned. Keep yourself occupied with keeping yourself healthy, mentally sane as best as you can. And it's hard nowadays to, maintain your sanity with all this crap going on. It's tough. It's tough for me. It really is. It's hard to maintain my sanity because I study this stuff. I study this stuff every single day because I'm trying to keep myself prepared. I'm trying to learn why we got to this point, where we're going, and what's going to happen once we get there, and what I need to do to prepare myself the best I can for it. And that study has been very difficult mentally, spiritually it has. But we can't go back. We don't have a choice to go back and hide in the corner and forget about this stuff anymore. At least for those that care. So try to keep, basically just try to separate yourself from the demonic. Do hobbies or whatever. I've mentioned this tons and tons, many, many times. You do things that are good for you, and don't involve yourself with the wrong kind of people. And best of luck to all of us, because we're going to need it. We really are. Anyways, thanks for listening, and until next time. I just wanted to add this in there because right after I just got finished posting that, making my video, this will be added in at the end. I went to check the news, and look what I found. Transgender attacker uses drugs, demon possession to defend himself in court. This was, I literally just got finished making my video, and this is the very first thing that I saw. Just to prove my point of what I'm talking about here. An Australian man who identifies as a transgender woman defended himself in court on Thursday, claiming that he was either possessed by a demon or his mind was addicted by drugs, and therefore it was his body, not him, who attacked the people at a 7-Eleven with an axe last year. Evie Amanti, a 26-year-old suspect, does not deny being bodily present at the time, but claims his mind was somewhere else. This is possession. He says allegedly attacked 2 people with an axe at the 7-Eleven January 7th, 2017. The suspect then reportedly swung the axe twice at a man outside who managed to avoid the blows. Says he has not pleaded. He has pleaded not guilty to 6 charges, including 2 counts of wounding with intent to murder. In court, the lawyer Charles Waterstreet asked, at that stage, had you had any idea of the damage that you had done to the persons by your bodily actions? To this, the defendant responded no. Again, by the way, this is an unrelated article. 11-year-old's response to new teacher sex proposition. Again, more demonic pedophilia shit manifesting itself in our society. The court had previously heard that he could not remember the incident. On Thursday, the transgender suspect developed a drug and demon possession defense. He said that he smoked 2 joints of cannabis on the balcony close to where the attack took place. Now I'm going to tell you something. I don't care if it's fucking weed. I don't care if it's pills. I don't care what the hell it is. You abuse any kind of drug, you're opening up a doorway. I don't care what it is, because you're sodomizing your mind. He heard whispered voices. That's demonic voices in his head. That's part of the schizophrenia stuff that people kind of go through too. And the schizophrenia thing, I might have to touch upon that on our Esoteric Lectures channel. But this whole voices that a lot of these schizophrenics hear and people with multiple personality disorder, if you look into their back history, all those people were abused as kids, and they get possessed that way. After leaving a failed first date and wanted to sleep, but after smoking marijuana, the voices became louder. He took the second joint to sedate himself. They stopped being whispers. They started being actual words, the suspect said. I started seeing some of the violent visions I had seen previously of me running at police with an axe and being shot dead. He recalled rocking back and forth, crying and listening to his favorite song, wanting the experiment to end. It's because he's possessed and something else is in control of him. Experiment to end. His last memory before waking up in the hospital that day after the attack was sitting on the balcony hearing a voice that had been telling him to kill and maim and inflict pain on other people and start the rise of hell on earth. What the fuck in shit is that? That's pretty hardcore right there. Like I just said, I kid you not, I just got finished making the video talking about this, and this is an article that popped up on the Drudge Report. To start the rise of hell on earth, because these demons that are possessing these people, like I said, want to start the chain reaction. Okay? I recall everything going quietly and feeling the voices come inside me, the suspect said. Then it gets really creepy. He said he experienced his face smiling without being in control of the action. I remember that smile, the smile that was not mine, he recalled. A sinister smile that plastered my face that I could not control, and I blacked out. More demonic stuff here. Blah, 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 blah. What else does it say here? Deep depressive episode, Roman Catholic, blah, that's bullshit. Now look at this. LGBT issues and demonic possession of exorcism have a long history. Of course they do, because you're doing shit that you're not supposed to be doing. This gender confusion is possession. I don't care what the fuck anybody says. That's what it is. This multiple personality, the multiple personality are different demons that are inhabiting the body that take the form of a different personality. That's what multiple personality disorder is. They're possessed. And I guarantee you this person was abused as a child, which is unfortunate, but that's how all this begins. So I just wanted to prove my point, show you guys what kind of stuff we're dealing with here. And like I said, I just got finished making my video talking about this very thing that we see going on. So anyways, with that being said, you know, I think I proved my point.